Hello, this is Robin Fabro, and you're listening to the Caucasus Digest. The fall of Ichkeria, a short-lived independent Chechen state that existed after the collapse of the Soviet Union, led tens of thousands of Chechens to seek refuge in Europe in the early 2000s and ever since. They were fleeing the brutal repression of the Kadyrovs, first under Ahmed Kadyrov and then his son, Ramzan, who has ruled Chechnya since 2005. Since then, reports of police brutality, disappearances, torture, and repression in Chechnya have only become more common, with the Russian authorities in the region directly targeting journalists, opposition figures, people associated with the former Ichkerian government, and queer people, among many others. After Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, many more Chechens attempted to seek asylum in Europe. Some, though, have found a less than warm reception, as the Chechen diaspora grapples with Islamophobia and stereotypes in their host countries. Chamil Albakov represents a group that claims to uphold the legacy of Ichkeria, with a government in exile. He now joins us from France, home to one of the largest Chechen communities in Europe. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Chamil, could you tell us a bit about the Chechen community in France and more broadly in Europe?
Our community represents approximately 75,000 persons in France, and in Europe there are some 300,000 Chechens. We are living here because the most of our refugees come here because of the two aggressions of the Russian Federation against our independent states, the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria, and because of all the atrocities that they have committed in our country.
And since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've seen a huge number of Russian nationals leave Russia. Has this also been true of Chechens? Have they left and come to the EU also?
Yes, it's true. Thousands of our compatriots, Chechen young men with their families, are fleeing from Chechnya and try to come to Europe, avoiding the mobilization. They don't want to participate in the war against the Ukrainians. Everybody knows that Ukrainian people didn't do anything wrong and anything bad to the Chechen people. So there is no reason for the Chechens to take part in this war against Ukrainian. And the Russian Federation is forcing the people to go to the war. Also, the regime of Kadyrov tries to do everything to send people to the war against the Ukrainian people.
So you say that Chechens have even more reason not to want to go to the war than other Russians. Have you noticed any difference in the way that European authorities treat Chechens fleeing different to other Russian citizens, to ethnic Russian citizens?
Unfortunately, we see that there are many discrimination against the Chechen refugees. In Poland, in Croatia, there is very big difficulties to pass for our refugees. And our ways to get a visa or to get here by plane and by authorization are impossible for our citizens because the Russians don't authorize the Chechens to leave like the other Russian citizens. Here, arriving in Europe, there are many difficulties for them. Discrimination, difficulty to get documents, Dublin procedure, and so on.
And in the past, we've also seen Chechens who, some have even been granted asylum, many of which have been very critical of the authorities in Chechnya, who have then been deported to Russia or faced the risk of deportation to Russia. Why were they not given protection, do you think?
The most of our refugees have got the protection of the European states as asylum seekers. But some of our people are deported to Russia and they are not given the status of refugees because of the situation that is in Europe after the terror attacks here in France, for example. The Minister of Interior wants to do everything to deport more Chechen refugees to show to the people of France that he is doing something. But this is not, it's not the best solution, because the Chechen refugees, the persons that are fleeing Chechnya, they are not the persons that commit such terror attacks, but the young people that have grown here in France. Some of them are radicalized through the social networks, and not because they are Chechens, but it's general for all. Nowadays, there are many sources of extremist propaganda and radicalization on the social network, and the young people, we can't control all of them. But the consequence of such terror attacks are very negative for all the Chechen refugees. They are risking to get deported to Russia. The refugees who come here fleeing the mobilization, they risk not to have documents and not to have the protection of the European states.
And if these people are deported to Russia, what do they face there?
They face much difficulties and even death, prison, torture. There are several young men who have been deported to Chechnya some years ago. One of them is killed in the prison in Grozny. Another is imprisoned without any proof of guilt, and many of them disappeared. And some of them are in the prisons of Russia, being tortured, living in very difficult conditions. These are the consequences that a Chechen refugee can face if he is deported to Russia.
I wonder, do you think there is an element of Islamophobia in how Chechen refugees are treated in Europe?
Unfortunately, some of the Chechen refugees told me that in Croatia there were many cases of Islamophobia against them, because the women have hijab, or the men have beards, and the attitude of the custom services of the representative of the police services in Croatia treated them with much hatred. This is unfortunately a problem. There should not be Islamophobia in Europe. It's not right to accuse all Muslims of terrorism and of extremism. We are Muslims and we have our principles, our religion, but we condemn all forms of radicalization, all forms of terror attacks against European people or European countries, and against all other people of other nationalities. It's not our religion. It's not our tradition. It's not our mentality.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before I let you go, Chamil?
Our government in exile, the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria government in exile, presided by Zakaev, and all our organizations here in Europe, Chechen organizations and English organization, we condemn this terror act that was committed in France recently, and we express our feelings to the friends and to the family of the teacher who was killed. And we assure the European people that the Chechens have no animosity and no problem and no objective to make war against the European states or European people. It is contrary to all our mentality, our religion, our traditions. It doesn't make part of our struggle for independence and for liberty. I would just that all the people in Europe get this message that the Chechen are not terrorists. They condemn the terrorism, and they are just having their own struggle for their independent states and for their liberty against the Russian aggression and against the Russian terrorism.
Chamil Albakov, thank you very much for joining us.